What's up, guys? It's your host, Hao Tran here, the CEO of Vietcetera. It's been a while since we had another regular episode of Vietnam Innovators. So thank you for everyone that's been following us over the last 6-7 months since Vietnam Innovators started. It's been a podcast that's been tremendously successful for Vietcetera, as well as the first of many podcast shows that have since been born on the network. So thank you again for your readership. Today is the second season of Vietnam Innovators. It's the first episode of the second season. We want to give a big thanks to our partners for this season, KPMG, of which we have the chairman and CEO of Cambodia and Vietnam here on the show today. And of course, our friends at ELSA, which stands for the English Language Speaking Assistance app. They're also sponsoring the season of Vietnam Innovators, so big thanks to them as well. But moving to today's episode, we'd like to welcome our guest. He's the chairman and CEO of KPMG Vietnam and Cambodia. His name's Warrick Cleine. He's a Kiwi. He's been in Vietnam for 23 years. He's also a regular at my restaurant, CTY, of which he hasn't been able to go to for some time. So Warrick, it's been a while since I've seen you, unfortunately, but hopefully very soon we'll welcome you back. But meanwhile, we'll have to welcome you to today's show. Warrick, please take the time here to share more about yourself and what your role entails at KPMG.
Great. Well, thanks, Hal. Really great to be on the show, and great to see you as well. And yeah, sorry we can't meet at CTY. I hope we're going to be back there before too long. I'm really missing that place and everything that comes with it. But look, I as you say, I've been in Vietnam for a long time. I've got, I think, one of the best jobs in the country, which is to be the chairman and CEO of KPMG. It's been something that I've been doing for a long time now. We're a really interesting organization. I get to work with great people both inside the organization and outside as well. We're the biggest professional services organization in Vietnam and Cambodia. So the privilege of leading that is really good. As you said, I'm from New Zealand. You can probably tell that by my sophisticated and cultured accent. But that's a long time behind me. As much as I love going back there and hope to be back there one day, right now Vietnam is where it's at. As well as KPMG, I get to do other things. I'm the chairman of the New Zealand Chamber of Commerce here, who is a small and exclusive group primarily focused on drinking great New Zealand wine. And I work a lot with the British BritCham, British Corporate Advocacy Council, who works with the biggest British companies in Vietnam and making sure the UK has a voice, particularly after Brexit. And in my free time, I'm really privileged to be an adjunct industry professor at RMIT, which has really got some of the smartest minds in Vietnam, both on its faculty but also in the student body. And it's great working and learning with those guys. So yeah, that's me, and look forward to sharing a bit about me and my organization today as we talk about what's going on at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction, Warrick. And it sounds like you're doing quite a bit, but KPMG, I'm sure, takes the majority of your time. It sounds like you kind of like oversaw the beginning of KPMG in Vietnam and Cambodia. Forgive me if I'm incorrect there, but 23 years, that's more or less around the same time that Vietnam also opened to the West, or the majority of the West. I would love for you to share more about how that this company started in Vietnam and Cambodia, and kind of how that's changed to what you're doing now. I understand you're very focused on innovation, agile, digital transformation. I bet those words didn't even exist 23 years ago. So maybe you can start with that.
Yeah, you're right. So correct. I mean, KPMG came into Vietnam with many of the multinationals who took the opportunity in the mid-90s after the Clinton administration lifted the most serious embargoes against Vietnam and allowed MNCs and other investors to start coming in here, participating in what Vietnam was doing, which was opening up its economy and reforming in a process which was known as Doi Moi. So KPMG came in here at that time with our big clients. We followed in organizations like Pepsi and Caltex and HSBC and Citibank that were all establishing their presence in Vietnam. These guys are global clients of KPMG, and we sent teams of people in initially from Singapore and Malaysia to get the ball rolling and to get a presence on the ground here, and to make sure that KPMG was represented and that we could provide global service to, or global standard service to these multinational companies. And I came in a couple of years after that had all started. I was a 25-year-old looking for an adventure. Originally, at that point, working with KPMG in New Zealand in our tax team, and came up here to really help the team get going and to service those clients. And I think when I arrived, we had probably around 30 people in our office here in Ho Chi Minh City. Today we have 1,800 people in KPMG Vietnam and Cambodia. So the organisation has grown immensely over those 20 plus years, really in keeping with Vietnam's growth and the growth of our clients also. So it's been it's been a great journey, really good fun participating in that. I was very fortunate to take a leadership role in the firm very early in my tenure here because of various issues which were happening at the time. That gave me an opportunity to I suppose influence the way the firm grew and our participation in the economy and what we were going to look like as things evolved. We've had a number of sort of landmark developments in our history. We took over the Anderson firm, if you remember back. Anderson was another global accounting practice that unfortunately got in trouble in the United States, and here in Vietnam we were able to take over them back in sort of 2002 or something like that. We've done various sort of mini mergers and acquisitions over that time as people have joined us, but primarily we've grown by recruiting graduates and promoting them through to partner in the organisation over time. So that's been the journey. Back in 2013, I led a group of the partners to do a management buyout of the firm here from KPMG International. So we own our business here in Vietnam and Cambodia, but we're part of the KPMG International network of firms. So it's it's been a great experience and a real learning one. And as you say, the firm's evolved massively over that time from being sort of an audit and tax firm back when I arrived to being a pretty broad-based consulting and professional services firm today, which I guess we'll talk about as we go through.
Exactly. I mean, one of the key ways to describe KPMG today and its clients to stay nimble in this day and age of digital transformation is agile. I understand there's a methodology within KPMG called Agile 2.0 as an organization. Could you describe what agile is? How would you describe it, and how does it apply to KPMG and its clients exactly?
Right. So at its very simplest level, being agile, just to apply a dictionary definition to it, is just the ability to move, the ability to adapt. As we're recording, the Olympics are on at the moment. There's lots of agile athletes on our TV screens now, and agility is exactly that ability to flex, to respond, to adapt, to change. And an agile organisation, including KPMG, is one, therefore, that's able to respond to changes that are happening in the environment, both internally, externally, and to make sure that we continue to be successful as our environment changes. So that's really at its simplest level. I think you can apply it then on multiple different levels, starting at sort of an enterprise level or a strategy level, having a strategy which is able to change and to move with the times. So that's being agile, and that is really important. And I can talk about that more. And then at sort of more operational level, so you can think about things like agile workplaces, the sort of seating that you have in the office and the policies that you have around working from home versus working on site, working in client premises, all of those sorts of things. So agility is a pretty broad spectrum of ideas and thoughts, but ultimately the most important thing is an agile mindset. It's having people that are able to think on their feet and able to change and respond when they have to. That's what agility is all about.
A lot of that's internal, it sounds like. Maybe you can share more about how you work with your clients externally. I'm sure a lot of them, multinationals, of course, but a lot of them are also large Vietnamese corporations, of which all of them prefer a certain way of working. How have you guys had to adapt given Agile 2.0, COVID, digital transformation? What are some of the opportunities that have been uncovered?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, the external forces which push an organization to change are as important to internal. So you need the building blocks internally to ensure that your organization is able to respond to external forces. But then externally, you've got regulators making decisions which impact you and your clients. You have mega trends around the world, whether it's data and analytics or blockchain or crypto or whatever is currently in vogue and is pushing management and leadership to think different ways. You have geopolitics. It's been a huge issue in Vietnam the last few years has been the global response to the previous US administration, which was forcing or encouraging companies to reorganize supply chains, which Vietnam was a big beneficiary of. All of these sort of external things come into play as well. And as an organization working with clients, we've had to respond to that in a number of different ways. One is really broadening our client base. So as I described when I first came to Vietnam, our story was all about multinational companies, Western, Japanese, Singaporean, and so on. Today, our story is increasingly about Vietnamese companies. It's working with the biggest and the best Vietnamese companies in the market to help them be globally competitive, help them to adopt international best practice into their businesses in Vietnam and so on. So one of the things we've had to do as an organization is to be agile about who we think of as clients, and whether they're state-owned enterprises or big listed companies or privately owned, entrepreneur-backed, private equity-backed companies in Vietnam. These guys are really important clients to us today. So that's an example of being agile, and certainly serving them is a lot different. Our multinational client base is largely relationship led from outside Vietnam. So we would have relationships at the head office in Tokyo or in New York or London, wherever they are, and we receive instructions to serve them here in Vietnam. In relation to the emerging Vietnamese client base, it's really much different. We have to have on the ground relationship abilities. We have to have understanding and local intelligence about who's relevant in the market, what clients are doing things, who are the emerging players in different sectors and so on and so forth. All skills that we didn't really need to serve multinational companies. And we also need to have different skills internally, whether it's particularly our sort of understanding of different buying cultures. And you certainly have clients from the West versus Japan versus Vietnam or other parts of Asia, make their buying decisions on a different basis. Understanding all those things is really, really important as well. So, the ability of us to respond to that is really critical. And the other thing is the nature of the services that are demanded. So, multinational companies have tended in the past to really focus when they're coming to a KPMG on our audit services or our tax services or our legal services. The local client base tends to be more interested in our management consulting practice and our ability to help them with things like setting strategy. So our strategy consultants, tech solutions, tech enablement, all these sorts of services are much more important in that local space as well. So if we weren't an agile organization and we hadn't managed to change and to flex our space in the market where we're operating the services that we're offering, the type of clients we're serving, then we'd be a lot smaller and a lot less successful than we are today.
Agility is a very sought after characteristic of companies. Maybe you can share about how you guys analyzed and structured agility within the organization. Were assessments made? Were surveys? Were workshops run? How did that work exactly? And how did that help to determine how you structure agility within the organization?
Yeah, so we recognized that we had to change the way we were doing things if we were going to be successful. So our industry is very competitive. We have not only the world of the big four, and that's an extremely competitive world, and our they're all world-class organizations that we have to be better than in order to succeed. But of course, we're also competing now in different parts of our business with the startup sector in the tech field, law firms, local and global in that space as well. The strategy houses, we compete with them with our own strategy business. So responding to the competitive environment was really the critical thing that forced us to rethink our model and how we go about changing our strategy in order to be more agile. The first thing we did was a people-based assessment, which was to use an HR consulting firm to do an agility assessment, where you can actually take your population, all the people that work with you, give them a questionnaire and have them assess their level of agility. And there's some science to that, but essentially that showed us that we are not a very agile organization when we're broken down on an individual basis. And if you think about it, the reason that people come and work at KPMG is because they're usually deep experts in a particular field. Maybe they are auditors, maybe they are tech experts, maybe they're lawyers, maybe they're tax experts. They're really, really good at what they do. They're the best at what they do. And, by definition, people that are deep experts in something aren't always the most agile. So as an organization, we determined that we had incredibly deep expertise, and that this was really, really important to us and also to our clients. It's why clients come to KPMG. But we didn't have much agility in the organization. We had not enough people that were able to see across the field of play, that were able to adapt to new circumstances or to changes in the external environment, that were able to run projects across multiple functions and so on and so forth. So we really set about changing that formula, and we did it in a number of different ways. One is to train people, because you can train agility. You can teach people to think more broadly and to take more factors into account in decision making, those sorts of things. But also in recruitment, we made sure that when we were recruiting, both at the graduate level and, KPMG, we take around 400 graduates out of Vietnam's and Cambodia's universities every year. When we were assessing graduates, we looked at the agility of those young people, agility factors, and that comes through in the way they solve problems and their communication skills and so on and so forth. But also our lateral hires. When we're looking at bringing people into the market, we have maybe 16 or 17 different nationalities working at KPMG Vietnam, Cambodia, making sure that we're bringing people into the market with high levels of agility as well, to balance up that deep technical expertise that the organization possesses. So that was really important, that self-discovery as an organization, and then systemically working out how we were going to deal with it. We also needed to ensure that we established a tone at the top, which was agile in mindset. So I had to ensure that myself and my leadership team were open-minded to adopting technology and to changing the way we do things, so that everybody could see that we were an agile organization. And that meant a lot more communication with staff about how we were thinking, what we were planning to do, why we were doing things. Historically, in top-down organizations, particularly in Asian cultures, bosses don't feel they need to explain to the team why they're doing something. At KPMG, we really do that. We do that a lot, maybe too much. But that's important. And it's important that all of the leadership group do that as well. We also recognize that some of the best ideas in the organization are not from old people like me, but they're from those 400 graduates that join us every year. So ensuring that we have channels, whether it's through sort of hackathons or competitions or communication channels that enable people to surface ideas and to bring them up through the organization, because a number of the best ideas have come from lower levels in the organization. And we've used design thinking to design strategy that's really great for younger generations and more agile generations to get involved, and that's been a big part of our formula as well. And the last thing we did is we really made sure that our physical environment, our offices, looked and felt like agile environments. So we refitted them with a different sort of seating styles that recognise the different ways people work. We adopted technology to enable people to work from anywhere, and we call Agile Anywhere. The physical environment was also really important. So it starts from strategy through culture through sort of changes to physical environment. It's a very, very holistic. If you try to do one thing, doesn't work, you've got to adopt a holistic approach to creating an agile organization.
Excellent. Thanks for that recap, Warrick. I mean, I can see the office in the background. That's the virtual background, of course, of yours. But having been a visitor, it really is a fantastic place to work. I mean, with that said, you mentioned the intake of new graduates every year to KPMG. I remember I had a meeting with the RMIT program manager for recruitment. Three of the most, actually two of the ones I remember at least, KPMG is number one. Vietcetera is number two, actually. So anyways, young people very important to the agility of an organization. It seems like you guys have done a kind of in-house review of your own agility and have come to produce solutions and luckily been able to implement them. For companies out there that are looking at how to kind of like see the need for agile kind of functionality or digital transformation, what do you tell them? What do they have to look out for to adopt that mindset, even if it's necessary at all in the first place?
Yeah, so the first thing is to make it clear that it is necessary. You know, if you look today at the 10 biggest companies in the world, 7 of them didn't exist 25 years ago, you know, and that means that the 7 that were there 25 years ago are no longer in the top 10, and some of them disappeared altogether. So you can identify those companies that are going to survive or thrive or disappear based on agility. And we've seen a similar thing in Vietnam. You know, when I came here 20 years ago, the biggest and most important companies in the country were the big state-owned enterprises. In many sectors, in many cases, they've been eclipsed by private enterprise players, private sector players today. And the reason is agility. It's the ability of those companies to adapt to the environment that they're working in. I'm talking both those global MNCs or in Vietnam, and the ability of younger, more nimble players to respond as well. So you've got to decide as a business leader, do you want to be a survivor or not? Because if you don't adapt, if you're not agile, you're going to be overtaken by others and you're going to disappear. So I think there's a real imperative for business owners and leaders to be agile, and having that conversation in the C-suite is the first thing. This isn't really an option. You've got to do this or you're going to disappear. And that was certainly the case for us at KPMG. You know, if we didn't change, we wouldn't be what we are today, and we certainly wouldn't have a future. I think that's the number one thing. I think the second thing is there are very clear methodologies and tools that you can apply and you can push into the business to make it agile. The agile workplace is sort of not a simple thing. It's actually difficult. It's hard to implement, but it's a starting point. And that comes down to things like office design, office policies, and so on and so forth. Things like flexible work arrangements are also difficult, but there are methodologies to implement them. So I think taking it piece by piece, starting out with the necessary strategic imperative, and then breaking it down into the steps that you can adopt. Some of them small, some of them big, to ensure you're going to survive. I think that's really the conversation that we have. And then, at KPMG, because we are a multidisciplinary professional services firm, we've got people, whether it's in technology or in HR policy design or in financial reporting design, KPI setting, all of those sorts of things, experts from across the field that can help companies through the agile journey.
Elsa Speak is the world's smartest English pronunciation coach powered by AI. The app can listen and pinpoint the exact errors in every single sound, intonation, rhythm, and pitch as you speak, compared to a native speaker, and give instant feedback on how to improve. All these feedbacks are fully automated using proprietary speech recognition technology. With this virtual, everyday English personal trainer, you'll be able to speak with ease and confidence. So it seems like agility and agileness are kind of results of a journey that companies take and individuals take. And in this case, design thinking, which is what you referenced earlier. Break down what design thinking is exactly, especially for companies that aren't design companies. What does that mean for clients, big or small, of KPMG's or those that are out there thinking about agility? What is design thinking for these companies?
Yeah, so design thinking came out of the world of product design, and it was popularized in particular by Apple, Steve Jobs and Apple, and the way they took the sort of the idea of the old Sony Walkman and turned it into something totally different, or the way they transformed computing and telephones and those sorts of things using design thinking principles. But they were applying principles of industrial design that have been used in designing motor cars and other things over the course of time. What has been done more recently by management thinkers is to take those principles of product design, design thinking and designing products, into strategy design and business strategy design. And there are some really specific tools that product designers use that they apply to think through how they're going to redesign things. And I'll give a few examples later if you want. And apply them in the form of strategy. And typically, design thinking is really about turning around your strategic thinking from where you're looking out to the market and saying, right, these are the products we offer, how do we sell them, to putting yourself in the seat of the consumer and saying, right, the consumer or the buyer, what do they need? What are the problems they're trying to solve? What are the pain points in their processes? And then you design your strategy to help them around that. So we started a design thinking process, KPMG, back in 2013-14 in Vietnam and Cambodia, where we were redesigning our strategy and recognizing, as I said, this need to become an agile organization, and we applied design thinking methodologies. We had a huge event with all of our staff, the equivalent of a kind of a hackathon, if you like, to get them to come up with ideas and hack into some of the problems and the solutions, and some of those things that were surfaced by teams of young professionals back in 2013 are business as usual at KPMG today. So an example of that is our on-demand app, which is a product we developed here in Vietnam to enable our clients to access KPMG in a very different way. That came out of that process as well. And then we applied some of the design thinking tools like subtraction or alternate worlds or accessible design and so on into the design of our strategies to come up with what we as an organization were going to look and feel like. And it's made a huge difference to I think our strategy over time, and been really successful as well. It's a very, very useful set of tools.
So tell us about some of the clients that have adopted this design thinking since you guys implemented it rigorously back in 2013-14. What are the profiles of those companies? Maybe not naming names unless you're comfortable with doing that, of course. How do they approach that design thinking and become agile?
Yeah, so it's typically companies that are looking at change. So Vietnam has been going through an enormous structural change over these last 20 years, particularly as it's opened up to the outside world, and it increasingly opened up the economy, in other words, become more globalized. And what that has meant is that the competitive environment has changed. So a sector which has been really active in this is the financial services space. And you go back 20 years, you don't even need to go back that far, and you would know that Vietnam's banking sector, for example, was dominated by big four state-owned banks and the foreign banks. Since that, there's a very, very vibrant private sector banking industry has developed. Joint stock banks and other privately owned banks have come out as competitors for both those state-owned banks and the foreign banks. And you can sense design thinking in the way they approach customer service, because they have gone from very much a customer service experience which was driven around regulatory requirements and past practices to one which is customer centric. So the payment system, for example, the ability to pay things with an app, cashless transactions and banking, those sorts of things are a reflection of design thinking. Also the physical environment of bank branches, another area that you would see that. So I think that's a sector which has been really active in changing its customer experience. And that's largely a response, as I say, to Vietnam opening up its business environment to international players and local players recognizing that they need to be competitive in order to survive. We've also seen a lot of innovation in the consumer goods market. I think that's another area, the sort of Vietnam-made goods, and there are a number of great examples where Vietnamese manufactured and branded products are beating international competitors in the market as well. You can see they've been applying design thinking to look at the Vietnamese consumer and how they respond to different things, and then in a much more agile way, being able to beat multinational companies at their own game in the market. So that's a space. The tech sector, obviously, the tech sector has agility and design thinking in its DNA, right? So you look at the growth of companies. I will name one, VNG, for example, which has got products in the market which are internationally recognizable. You would see chat apps or those sorts of things used globally, but Vietnamese versions of that which are really suited to the local market, local consumers. So they've been developed clearly with design thinking tools and methodologies in mind. So I think there's lots of great examples that you can see companies have brought it to life, and I could go on and on. But the hospitality sector I think is another one. Whether it's in food and beverages or in the hotels, tourism, transportation, the airline sector. Also, particularly with competition coming in and creating a different playing field there from the old sort of state-owned Vietnam Airlines dominated space.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Warrick. And we've seen the same thing. A lot of these companies are thinking about it, but have yet to find the actual practice to formulate and strategize and plan that thinking, let alone come to the end result of being more agile and improving that agility over time. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years for Vietnamese companies, especially as we hopefully emerge out of the COVID lockdown very soon. And a lot of these companies are rethinking about how they think. So anyways, that kind of concludes our discussion today about design thinking, about Agile 2.0, of which KPMG has been a prominent player in Vietnam for. Warrick, thank you for your time this morning, my evening, your morning, for sharing your thoughts today about that. I'd love to also just conclude with kind of a simple note. You mentioned that there are 400 new graduates joining KPMG every single year. Maybe you can do a quick shout out for those looking for new career opportunities or seeking kind of industries to look out for. What's kind of your quick 60-second elevator pitch for those considering a career and anything related to what KPMG does?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thanks for the opportunity, because it's a competitive market for employers and for employees. So it's important. We are fortunate to be able to employ so many young people every year because of our business model and the way we operate. But it's really competitive for those guys and girls. As I say, we employ about 400, but we would get 5,000-6,000 applicants to our graduate program. So anybody that wants to have a career in this sort of place needs to be good at what they do, need to really pursue the opportunity and to differentiate themselves in a pretty crowded field. I think what students and people looking to join an organization need to think about, and it's not easy, but it's to really think about longer term, not short term. Don't think about the immediate 6 months or 12 months, but think about where your career is heading and what sort of foundations you want to lay for a successful career. So an organization that invests heavily in training and development, not classroom training, or not just classroom training, but also the experience is, I think, really, really important. I think also looking at culture is important as well. We are at KPMG an international organization. We have, as I said, many nationalities working for us, but we recognize we need to provide global standards of service in this market, and albeit with local characteristics both in Vietnam and in Cambodia. So I think looking at the culture of the organization, talking to other people that work there, and just saying, hey, are these people I want to work with? Do I want to see these people every day or not? Because that's really important as well. So lots of things to think about, lots of ways to. In many ways, we all wish we were 21 again and out there kicking off our career, what decisions we would make, how we would make different decisions. It's not always easy to say. where you would go. But I think joining an organization like KPMG, and we're not the only ones in the market offering this sort of environment, but it's a way to enjoy an international standard career where you're going to continually learn. It's a lifetime learning experience working in an organization like this. So that's what I would encourage people to think through.
Excellent. Well, it's coming from the man that's worked at KPMG for 26 years, 23 in Vietnam, and obviously has built an organization now employing 1,800 people. So hopefully those listening out there that are in their 20s are also thinking of their future just like yours. Thank you so much, Warrick. Thank you again for sharing your thoughts about design thinking, Agile 2.0, and what the future of Vietnam and Cambodia is looking as well. Any final notes that you'd like to share?
Yeah, look, no, other than saying thank you very much, Hao. It's great. I've really enjoyed the chat this morning. I know it's difficult times for a lot of us in business. We can see those businesses that have been able to be agile, to switch their mindset, their thinking, their business models, and so on. Switch it up quickly, whether they're big organizations like mine or small organizations are the ones that are going to come out of this much stronger. Research shows that companies that lean into crises like this and continue investing, challenging, changing, are the ones that come out of it most strong. So, the tendency is to cut, to be conservative, to play it safe. This is probably a great time to take some risks as well, but make them educated and informed risks. So, really enjoyed it. Hal, thank you very much to you and your team, and look forward to many more great conversations.
Excellent. Thanks for those parting words. And for those of you listening to this episode of Vietnam Innovators, don't forget it comes out every Tuesday, starting again weekly. Sorry for the break, 1 month break, summer break for me. But we're back in action. We'll have a lot of guests with our partners, KPMG, of course. They'll be inviting some excellent, great partners in the ecosystem, helping to drive agile and partnership ecosystems, digital ecosystems in Vietnam and Cambodia. We're looking forward to that. And a big thanks to our friends at ELSA as well. So for those of you listening on this episode, thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to welcoming you back next week. Cheers. Thank you, Warrick.
Thank you.
Check out the Vietnam Innovators series on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to listen to other innovative stories in Vietnam. Entering the Vietnamese market since 1994, KPMG is one of the largest professional service firms in the country, with over 1,800 experts serving international and local clients in a wide range of industries. Recognized for its excellent auditing and tax services, KPMG has also since expanded to other services such as legal, deal consulting, and business consulting.